Well, good evening, everybody. This is Mason Sims, and welcome to another episode of our show. Joining us this evening is Clay Counts. He is the chairman for the Pickens County Republican Party Club, and he is also the first candidate to announce for District 4 of the state for state legislature. So we'll be happy to hear some of his plans that he has once elected. So again, my name is Mason Sims, and let's get started. All right. Good evening, everybody. With me today, I have Mr. Clay Counts. He is one of the the candidates for state representative for Davie IFC. And which district is that? District 4. District 4? All right. It was good to see you again, Clay.
Absolutely good to see you, Mason.
Yes, so I can imagine you've probably been pretty busy right now with since you announced with your campaign.
Absolutely. Fielding quite a number of phone calls every day, text messages, emails, all been wonderfully positive so far. Got some wonderful people lined up that are supporting me, so it's been wide open, but it's been great.
Yeah, that's good. And so you said that you've had your support from family and friends as well.
Absolutely. I've had people reach out to me that I knew, acquaintances, knew loosely, that have reached out and voiced their support for me. So everybody that's reached out, I just want to say, thank you to them again, because it's been great and wonderful.
All right, that sounds great. I know that people probably watched this last time. For those that didn't, just kind of tell us about yourself, like what your background is.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name's Clay Counts. I've lived here in Pickens County my whole life. 32 years old, graduated Liberty High School, went on to Clemson University. I've always had a strong interest in the community. I'm serving in various community groups, whether that be in my church, helping with Awana, Liberty Lions Club. I'm the current president there. I really just want to see Pickens County be the best it can be. I've always tried to do things to help make it better. I've had an interest in politics from a very young age. I started in youth and government whenever I was in high school. And then around that same time, I said, I think I really want to get into this, do this someday. So I started volunteering on campaigns, moved on from there and started running my own campaigns. And then went on from there to decide, hey, this is an opportunity for me to run. So I decided to throw my name in the hat for State House District 4, and I'm going to give it my best stab.
Yeah, well, it sounds great. And what are some of your plans for District 4? I know Davie High's been there a long time, so some things that you'd like to continue what he's done or some new ideas you'd like to bring to the table once elected.
Yeah, absolutely. So my biggest thing is building community. So I love this place. I want to do everything I can to improve the business community. I look at downtown Pickens, downtown Liberty specifically. Both of those have a handful of businesses in there, but there's a lot of empty buildings that I would love to see filled. So I'd love to use my role as a state representative to continue to build on the success of our local leaders there, help them in any way I can, certainly not try to step on any toes or anything, but do all I can to make their jobs as easy as possible from the state's perspective. I'm also a big 10th Amendment advocate. So that's one of the main reasons I'm running, because I truly believe the federal government has grown way too large. It's way too big. It does way too much than it was intended to do. So my goal is to say, hey, let's try to use the state to grab some of these rights back. Let's pull these responsibilities back to the state level, because I think a government closest to the people best serves the people. So I'd love to see us work with our representatives in Congress, or go out on our own in South Carolina and say, hey, you know what? We're done with this. We're going to stop living in this system, and we're going to pull back and get those rights that we should have and are intended to have.
Yeah, I know some people too disagree with Neil Collins, but I will agree what he says about like staying here, saying.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I certainly agree with that statement, because my goal is to not work against anybody, but to work with people. Whether that's a city council person in Liberty or Pickens, county council, even neighboring districts. Anything I can do to make our community together, as long as they're on the same page and willing to work towards that, I'm happy to work with anybody.
Well, that's great. Yeah, I'm sure people would love to know that as well too. Those that are undecided voters.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, are there any other opponents that are coming up right now?
No, not at this time. I haven't heard any names. I'm sure somebody else has jumped in. That's fine. I'm running for this seat, not against anybody. So I've got no qualms if anybody else wants to jump in. I think I will certainly work harder and be better prepared than anybody. And that's a pride on my end, but it's something I take very, very seriously. And I'm very excited to put my best foot forward and be the best I can be, so that our people are represented properly in Columbia.
Right. Since Davie High's, for the most part, since Davie High's been in office, you've been his campaign manager.
That's right. Yeah, I started with Davie a very long time ago. Actually, made friends with his daughter, Sally. I was friends with her first, and when we were in school. And then not long after, she found out I was interested in politics, introduced us, and we've hit it off since then. He's been a wonderful mentor of mine. I certainly respect his wisdom and understanding of the political process, how things work. and has really helped me get my feet wet in this world.
Yeah, so he has endorsed you, right?
Yep, absolutely. So he's endorsed me. I actually have a number of endorsements lined up that I'm excited to roll out in time. So those will be coming out in the next weeks and months. But he was the first one to publicly endorse me, and I certainly thank him for that.
Yeah, it's good to have it's good to be off on a good start.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, and with since you are the chairman too of the Pickens County Republican Club, I know you're probably taking things one step at a time. Do you have somebody else monitor? I'm not really sure how like the club works. Do you have an election as far as?
So we have a board, and I'm actually, and I'll share this, so this will be breaking news anyway. I'm gonna end up stepping down as the chairman because I feel like that would be appropriate. I don't want to give the implication that our club is endorsing myself as a candidate because of my involvement. Still going to stay really involved. I'll probably move to more of a vice chairman type role in the club, but I'm going to hand off some of those duties just so that implication is not there. I don't want it to look like our club is endorsing me. So, myself or anybody else that wants to run for that seat, they can always come. They're going to be welcome with open arms.
That sounds great. And I have heard that David Connolly is thinking about running for chairman for Pickens, the whole organization Pickens County GOP. But I was curious if he wanted to do the clubs. I know that him and Bonnie Hitler, they have a good relationship. So I was surprised maybe if he wanted to take a run at the club.
No, I haven't heard that. As far as like wanting to be a part of the club, he's certainly welcome to come take part with us. Got somebody in mind. I'll keep his name in my back pocket for probably the next chairman's role. But if he wanted to come take part of it or anybody else for that now, we would certainly welcome them with open arms.
And your primary, that's going to be next year, right, in 2026?
That's correct. So it'll be June of 2026 will be my primary.
Yeah. And I can imagine the voter turnout will be pretty well because it's also for the governor.
Yeah, you're spot on. That's what I'm interested in watching. It's already been, we've seen a little bit of fireworks. I'm sure you've seen with Nancy Mace going after Alan Wilson a little bit and Pamela Evan as well. So I think that race is going to be one that's a real hot button one to watch. So I think that's going to really drive the voter turnout for that race. So I get a feeling that my race there in District 4 should have pretty strong turnout compared to previous years.
Well, that's good. Yeah, because that's one day that for people don't like about the primaries is usually the vote.
Yeah, it's incredibly low. And that's something that's, I'll say somewhat frustrating. And I think some of that stems back to our education system is not understanding how the political process works because people just don't vote in the primary. And as you know, that's the election around here. If I win the primary, all intents and purposes, unless somebody comes out of the woodwork and runs as an independent and wins, which is highly unlikely, that's basically the race. And unfortunately, our turnout's in the 10-15% range. So you take 10-15% of eligible voters or registered voters that vote in that race, they're deciding for 100% of the population. So to me, when I'm talking to voters, talking to people about politics in general, it's like, hey, vote in these things because your vote for it's so much more. In a presidential election, we're one of hundreds of millions of votes. In a state and a county race, you're one of maybe 3,000, 4,000. So you can have a much greater impact versus those big races.
Definitely. Yeah, that's one thing too. Is just get people out there to the polls.
Absolutely. That's the battle. It's always it's a 50+1 thing. You can have all support in the world leading up, but if they don't go to the polls, that's the day that matters.
Yeah, and it got frustrating too. And people said, "I didn't see your name on the November ballot." And like, I'm just trying to get you the.
That's right. You wouldn't believe it how many times I've heard that from people. They'll say, "Who do I need to vote for on such and such date?" I'm like, "Well, that was the primary election. That's done. So you can't vote." So I feel your pain there.
Definitely, yeah. So. Next election, if I do decide to run for it, will be in November, so that'll be good.
That's exciting. Yeah, that one at least you don't have to fight a primary battle that way. You can just hop right in and you get everybody showing up.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I'll be nonpartisan, so yeah, a good change of pace.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah. So the other thing I was going to mention too is with the state legislature, even though it is Republican, I believe several sources I've spoken with said that South Carolina ranks behind Rhode Island, like say one of the most liberal legislatures, and right now it is heavily divided. So once elected, how will you overcome those obstacles once you get into the state?
Yeah, and that's a really good point. So one of the congressmen I respect the most is Thomas Massie. So Thomas Massie is sort of a liberty-leaning, free thinker. In my opinion, he's the most closest to the founding fathers of our current representatives in Washington. And he's someone I really look up to and appreciate. And I would love to be a Thomas Massie type representative. So Thomas votes in a way that is right for the people based on his opinion. He doesn't care what this party or this caucus says. He says, I'm going to do what's right, and I'm going to work with anybody, whatever side of the aisle, to accomplish the goals that I'm trying to accomplish. That's something I want to take to heart. I'm not going to go down there to fight anybody one-on-one. I'm going down there to fight for the people of District 4 and do that by working together with people. Figure it out. Where can we agree on this issue? We may disagree on this issue, but we can agree on issue B here. How can we work together to move the football towards the end zone with certain issues? So I'd love to, meet new people down there, figure out how we can work together, collaborate. If there's issues we can't work together on, that's okay. Don't burn any bridges there. Let's figure out ways we can work together and pass more conservative legislation to get our state to where it needs to be.
Well, that's good. Yeah, I feel like it's one thing that our government, all branches, is that piece of messaging is being able to negotiate.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's one of those things. Compromise is sometimes a dirty word, but if you look at our nation's founding, it was founded on compromise. It took, you never compromise on your principles. You have your underlying principles. But let's use the roads, for example. I may not agree that we need to turn this road into a 4-lane road. I may think it needs to be a 2-lane road. Just because myself and another representative have a disagreement on that, and that's hashed out, doesn't mean I need to blow it up and say he's this or that, start calling names, doing things like that, because that doesn't accomplish anything. That doesn't pass any laws. And then when it comes time I may need his vote on an issue, he's going to say, this guy's going to call me names if I don't agree with him, so I'm not with him. Right. So it's very important to be able to work with people, listen to people, understand where they're coming from, and then make your decision based on that.
Well, that's great. Yeah, and that Mr. Massey, which county is he from in South Carolina?
So Thomas Massey, he's actually a representative from Kentucky.
Okay.
Yes, he's a congressman from Kentucky. He represents a rural area in Kentucky, and he's got a YouTube channel I definitely recommend you and your viewers to check out. Does some things on his farm, talks about some philosophical beliefs that he has, that he holds. So he's a very interesting fellow, and I think a lot of them.
That's good. Yeah, I think I was getting confused with him and Shane Massey.
Oh, Shane Massey. Yeah, different Massey.
Yeah, he's from Edgefield.
Yep, that's right. I don't know, never met Shane. I don't know a ton about him, but Thomas Massey. I'd say Thomas Massey is certainly someone I look up to, and then Trey Gowdy was another one who's now a former congressman, retired. I appreciate his tenacity to get to the bottom of an issue and not take any nonsense.
Right.
He certainly was a strong person. He was a fighter. He didn't try to beat people over the head and name call them. He was very direct and very honest, and I certainly appreciate that in him as well.
I definitely, I really enjoy watching him on Sunday nights too.
Yeah, it's one of those things I'd love to have him back in Congress. I mean, he was an excellent representative, but he's still fun to watch on TV for sure.
Yeah. See, mainly did he want to go back into private law practice?
Yes, sure. Yes, that's what I heard. I've only spoken to him once, met him one time, so I don't really think for sure, but I heard he was tired of Washington, corruption, things went on, and he wanted to get back to his family. That's certainly understandable.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, and that's one of the most beautiful places in the country. It's also one of the most corrupt places.
It is. It's very unfortunate. And I'm thankful that Trump won, because we would really, really be down bad if Kamala Harris won. And so I'm thankful that Trump won, and in the efforts of DOJ to go in and clean up some of the mess that's going on. When the budget's as big as it is, there's all kinds of money going around places that shouldn't be going. And I'm very thankful they're starting to shine the light on some of those issues.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see if they're going to be able to get the Panama Canal back.
Yeah, I would love to. I'd love to have the Panama Canal back. Honestly, that was a mistake. Yes, federal issue, so I won't get to the vote on that specifically, but that was a mistake, in my opinion, of the Carter administration to give that back. American lives were spent on that. A lot of money and effort was spent on that. That was our doing. We should have maintained control of that. Unfortunately, it sounds like Secretary of State now, Rubio, has been able to get some concessions from the Panamanian government so that they're not going to be working with the Chinese as closely anymore. I heard there was plans to build a bridge across the Panama Canal, which, from a military standpoint, if they decide to blow that up, then they shut down the canal. Hard to get our fleet from one ocean to the next, to go all the way around the tip. So that's one of those things that I think that we're moving the right way, but I'd love to see that back in American hands fully.
Yeah, see, I realized that Jimmy Carter, I think he sold it for
$1, I think it was. Yeah, that was Jimmy Carter was an honest man. He was I think a good man at heart, but he was not a very good president.
That's right. Yeah, he's a good Christian. Yeah,
he's a Christian man. Yeah. Christian man. Just one of those things. Unfortunately, he didn't pan out quite so well as a president.
Yeah, that's good that he's able to do that stuff like Habitat for Humanity.
Yeah, and it's something, looking at, so Jimmy Carter's obviously different political, ideology than I have, but I can certainly respect the efforts that he put towards Habitat for Humanity, which is something I would like to do as a representative. Not only go down to Columbia, vote in a conservative manner to try to pass conservative legislation, but also use this position for the benefit of the community. If I, run for this seat and I'm lucky enough to win, one of my goals is going to be to have every business, downtown Liberty and downtown Pickens, which are the two main cities I represent, be full. I'd love to see those full of business, and anything I can do to help, drive that, I'm going to certainly do.
Okay. Well, I'm sure that'll definitely be very beneficial for the community.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You probably have mentioned this before. So, what are the top 3 issues that you would like to address once elected?
So, first one's 10th Amendment, certainly for me, which I mentioned before. I'd like to see a pushback on the federal overreach. I think we can do that through legislation, direct legislation, as well as challenging them in the courts. I think the Supreme Court and some of the lower courts, we've seen changes in willingness to address issues that were previously basically hands-off. So I think we in South Carolina need to be willing and able to fight against the issues there. Another issue I would like to see, or that is a high importance to me, judicial reform. I believe that we have a failed system currently because so many of our criminals are repeat offenders. So I've heard stories of criminals getting arrested, bailed out, and then committing a crime again the same day from our law enforcement. And that's not fair because they're taking our law enforcement away from other issues they could be addressing. And then obviously they don't care about the system. The punishment's not good enough because they're out and just doing it again. So I've got some thoughts there. I can drill down into some of those around how we can correct that issue. That's a big one. And then I'll say my third one is some of the restaurant venue crisis. So some of the liquor liability laws that we have in place in South Carolina has created a situation where liquor liability is so incredibly expensive, it's prohibitively expensive that restaurants are going out of business. And I would love to see that change because that's the backbone of the South Carolina economy is this small business. If we're not taking care of those small businesses, I don't think we're doing our job as a legislator.
Yeah, and actually, I'm part of the Easily Running Club, and we usually go to the pint station afterwards, and then they started serving food there because it just got so expensive just to serve alcohol.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of those things. A lot of it has to do. People will use the phrase tort reform, and that's a big part of it. I think that when these laws were passed, they were passed with well intentioned. I don't think anybody intended for things to happen, but it's an unintended consequence. So that's something that I always have to have in mind when I pass a law or vote for a law to pass. There are unintended consequences. So we have to make sure that we're addressing those, mitigating those when possible. And if something like this happens with the issues of the liquor liability, then we need to correct that.
Absolutely. And also with education and things like the library board, has that been brought to your attention?
Absolutely. So I'll say first and foremost, I oppose critical race theory, diversity, equity, inclusion, any Common Core, any of the what I'll call leftist ideology. Those are things that have no place in the school system. I think the legislature is taking some steps in the right direction to try to address that. The library board specifically would end up being a county issue, but I certainly am not okay with pornographic or inappropriate material that could end up in children's hands. Adults can certainly do what they want to do. That's their business on their own. Can't tell anybody what they want to do, but anything that's has to do with children needs to be very, very narrow and very, very protected.
Right, and I feel like, at least from the state legislature standpoint, they had made some improvements. Mm-hmm. I know at the beginning of this year in my school, they had certain books, like had restrictions on them. It was textbooks for the ELA class because of what it contains. So I'm glad they at least started making those.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one of those things, I look at it as something that's going to take time because really, talking to some educators and people in that community, people don't realize like there's no real list per se of what's in the library. Right. Some things are donated through time, things go missing, things get put back in that aren't supposed to be there. So I think it's important to, as those things come up, to address them, remove them. And then the big thing really boils back to age appropriate. Is that appropriate for somebody at that age to be viewing? And some of the things I heard that were going on in our local library certainly were not. They had no business being anywhere near children. So those types of situations should certainly be addressed, and if necessary, some legislators should step in.
Right, and I have people to know too. I mean, at least from a conservative standpoint, we're not wanting to ban books. We just want to have just like
appropriate,
just like with movies.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, R-rated, PG. It's just all about being age appropriate. There's things that are, I would say are not of value in our society, but I'm not going to tell somebody else they can't do that and they do that. At the same time, that same material oftentimes is not appropriate for children and should be nowhere near where they can access it.
Yeah, I agree 100%. So it definitely seems like you have a conservative standpoint with Pickens County being, pretty much like, I would be, argue say like close to 9% conservative.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's who I am at heart. I'd say I'm a constitutional conservative with a little bit of a mean libertarian streak.
Yeah.
I have a strong distrust of government in general, skepticism. Obviously it's important to me to build relationships with people, know who they are as a representative. I've been fortunate to meet most, if not all, of our local representatives, and think, for the most part, they're wonderful people. Even if I disagree with them on specific issues, I know that their heart's in the right place, and that means a lot. So I think for me as a candidate, hopefully a representative someday, I want the people to know, like, hey, this is what I believe. I'm very conservative. My heart's in the right place. I'm going to try my best to do right. If I do wrong or make a mistake, tell me, and I will try my best to correct that.
Right. Yeah, and I think people say that people look at people's voting records, they don't see 100% conservative. Just to me, that kind of tells me like it feels like it's like their way, no way. It feels like there's no negotiation.
Yeah, and that's one of those things that's really interesting. So I was talking to a friend about this earlier today. That's just good you bring that up. Votes are not always black and white. It is a yay or nay, so you vote for or against something. But the example I always use is the Save the Puppies bill. So let's say I say I'm a legislator, I win. Save the Puppies bill comes up. Everybody loves puppies, of course.
Right.
But I vote against the Save the Puppies bill because it has a lot of pork in it, or it, allows some transgender ideology in our schools. And then somebody was sending a hit piece in the mail saying, well, Clay hates the puppies because he voted against it. Well, that's not the whole story. And obviously that's foreign politics. People spin things. So I always tell people, always get a couple of sources, maybe 3 if you can. Talk to your representative, let them explain it to you, show you in the bill, like, hey, this is where I disagree with it, or like, this is why I voted for it. That way you have a full picture, because people too often in today's world are trying to just take advantage of people, whether that be scams or political issues. They're giving a half story and trying to twist the facts to make them look good. I'm more of one of those that's, likes a good disinfectant. I want to have more information out there. I want to talk to the people as often as possible, explain, this is how I feel. Tell me how you feel.
That's good. Yeah, that's definitely one thing. It seems like we're kind of lacking that.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of that's a culture issue. I think that we've gotten away from, some of the Christian values that our nation's founded on. And some of it's, even beyond that, it's a social media world. Everything's instant. People are distant. They don't view people, when they're talking to them online as real people, but they are real people. So I always think it's important whenever I'm talking to somebody online or in person to respect them. They may disagree with me, but don't be mean to them. Say, hey, I believe this because of this. Why do you believe that? I've got friends from all across the political spectrum. Furthest right as you can go to, super, super left wing, almost communist level. And I may not agree with them on any issues, but I always appreciate their insight. I spend a lot of time reading, and I've read the Communist Manifesto, and also read most of that, finished Union and Liberty with John C. Calhoun, because I think it's important to capture those other perspectives, understand where they're coming from, because for one, it's going to strengthen my viewpoint if I disagree with them. And two, I'm going to understand holes in their ideology.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's one thing I mentioned too at my last Pickens GOP meetings, actually just last night. I said I feel like that people that are involved, or some people that are involved in politics, will say something about someone, but like, does this person really reached out to this person, most often with them? Or do they just go by the gossip and hearsay?
As I'd say, most of the time it's gossip and hearsay. It's one of those things, human nature. I won't point to any one person and say these people are doing wrong because of this. It certainly is wrong, but it's human nature. And if you hear, and there's also some, called confirmation bias. So I have to be very careful of this, because as a conservative and somebody that has a distrust of government, I like to think that the federal government's corrupt. I think it is corrupt. I think there's evidence of that. But just because I think that everything I hear about the federal government being bad doesn't necessarily mean it's true. So I think that's very important for us as individuals that can vote to look at issues, take it in, digest it, and really understand it. I may not like the way, we'll just make up a representative in Columbia. I may not like the way they vote, but just because I don't like the way they vote doesn't mean everything they do is wrong. A lot of times it's just confirmation bias, where I was like, oh yeah, I think he's wrong, therefore it must be. So I think it's very important to get a lot of information when you're making decisions.
Yeah, I feel like it's one thing our generation, or at least in general, what was going on these days, is that there's not good communication.
Absolutely. Yeah, a lot of that, let's go back to social media. People haven't learned to talk and communicate like they used to. There's a lot of times people are spending, I'm guilty of it too. I spend a lot of time on my phone and device, looking at things, doing things. Now, it's one of those things you can use that for good or for evil. I can use that to waste my time, or I can use it to read the Bible, for example. I can go on the Bible app and read the Bible. I can watch informational videos on YouTube. So it's just a matter of how you use it. So that in itself is not bad, but I think that does affect the way we communicate, which unfortunately has had a lot of negative side effects.
I agree 100% on that. So is there anything else you'd like to mention to your constituents and our viewers while you're on there?
Yeah. The big thing for me is, I'm a born again Christian guy, real Southern country boy, nothing fancy about me. I'm no better than anybody else around. I try to come to issues with a humble mindset and an openness to listen. If you have any issues with me or any ideas you want me to hear, I'm always going to be open to hear those. May not always disagree with you, but I'm happy to share what I believe and hear what you believe, no matter which side of the aisle you're on or what your perspective is. I really want to just do anything I can to make this place the best it possibly can be.
All right. Well, Clay, it was a pleasure having you on.
Absolutely. Thanks.
I wish you best of luck on anything.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you.
And that concludes our show for this evening. If you have not already, please feel free to click, like, share, and subscribe on our YouTube channel, and also follow our Facebook page for further updates. I hope that everybody has had a good work week so far, and also I hope that you have a good upcoming weekend. So thank you all for watching this evening. Good night to all, and God bless America. Thank you.